Okay? With Lot and with his assets, the troubles with Lot were connected with his assets as a result of his personal lack of saturation. Due to, 13:10, sorry. Let's just go back and see what we're referencing here at 13:10. Excuse the pause.
He
was greedy. He wasn't satisfied.
So he was going there because of the richness of the land, and obviously he was trying to absorb as much of that as possible. So Lot's focus on his assets then makes him even more suspect, because if he's somebody who's doing successful work there, then he might be somebody who is funding a rebellion there. Ben Achi Avram, son of a brother of Avram, when Lot tried to mitigate the suspicion and accusation against him, it had a reverse effect. It was understood as a proof of being an instigator and a trained propagandist similar to Avram, who was persecuted by Hammurabi or Amraphel. So again, every time Lot opens his mouth, he seems to get into it deeper. By Elefu, and they went to put him on trial and interrogate him to discover his connections and his plans. So he now is a rich person who was connected to a known enemy of the state, and therefore he must be somebody who is at the head of the rebellion, and they need information from him. So they're not going to kill him immediately. They're going to take him and see what they can get out of him, or see if they can ransom him, or see if they can learn about the nature of the rebellion from him. Vehu, and he was accused of having made his domicile near the focus of the uprising by his own choice. So again, the place that he is located speaks against him. Yoshev Bistom. So here, by the way, we're seeing phrase by phrase part of the definition of divine justice, of mida keneged mida. That when Lot makes his decision that this is a good place economically, his choice to go to that place, his choice to be there for economic reasons, each one of those choices is now testifying against him and making his situation even worse. And again, everything that he says, everything that looks about him is incriminating him more. Yoshev Bistom, residing on Stom. Even though he lived on the outskirts near Stom, he was considered a regular inhabitant of Stom itself, with connections to the city. So he's not there, he's on the outskirts, he's living alone, but we identify him as somebody who is Yoshev Bistom, or somebody who's residing in Stom. So again, when we look at this sentence superficially, it doesn't tell us any of the things that we've just read. It doesn't tell us why particularly Lot is saved, and that how he's viewed by the other side. It just says that they took him and they took his possessions, and then they went. So the notes tell us a much more detailed and I won't say different, but more colorful story than we would have gotten from the Pshat. Vayikhu et Lot ve'et refushaho ben Achi Avram vayelechu v'hu yoshev Bistom. We are on page 60 on the right-hand column, 14:12. Vayavo, and he came. Number one, after Hammurabi departed, taking along all the people, their wealth and food reserve, a survivor emerged from hiding, not finding any means to live, and he came to look for a source of sustenance, as indicated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So with the Pashta, he's looking forward and outward from the place where there is nothing left. Hapalit, the refugee, Number 2, with the double entendre katon with a two-part note. The refugee was the only one who remained alive from a whole clan and did not have anyone to join for cooperative living, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So he's the last one who's left there. He doesn't have a second partner to turn to. That's the two. That's the two. So he comes to seek shelter and food elsewhere. Vayaged, and he told, with the tipcha, backwards looking, slight pause after it. Sorry, we've got a note there.
Yep.
According to the Midrash and Rashi, the refugee was Og, king of the Bashan, and the only one left from the Rephaim. He is therefore mentioned with an identifying hey. So it's not Vayavo Palit, and it didn't say a refugee came, rather Vayavo Hapalit, the one who managed to be the refugee. And when we talk about Og later, Mishar Miyeter HaRefaim, he's the one left from the Refaim. So again, he's identified with the definite article there and the definite article here. So therefore, he's the one. Midrash will quite often take something like that when you say, instead of Vayavo Palit, that a refugee came, Vayavo Hapalit, that sort of demands that Midrash comes in and says, the one, which one? We were talking about anybody who was a refugee, so he's obviously somebody who we know, and then Midrash has to fill in the story, and it will take the words Palit and it will look for it elsewhere, and Nishar, the one who's left over, is the one who sought refuge. So this is one of the tools that Midrash uses, a direct reference when we don't know who it's directed at. Vayaged, and he told, number 3, with backwards looking tipcha, with a pause afterward. Being a subject of interest, the escapee of Hammurabi's atrocities was continually questioned about his salvation, and he told about certain personal episodes and personalities, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So he's looking back and telling the stories of who he knew and what happened. Le'Avram, for Avram, with a munach, so this is separated out from everything that's come from before and moving the story forwards afterwards. Among many stories of tragedy, he mentions the incident of Lot, which was of interest for Avram, as shown by the shape of the reading mark. So up until that point, Avram might have had some indifference to what happened, but from that point on, Avram's interest is piqued once he learns that Lot is involved as well. Ha-Ivri, the Yivri.
Hebrei is a Russian way of saying a Hebrew.
Right. I don't see anything Cyrillic about an etnachta, but okay. So we have the stabilizing focus on Avram's name. Avram the Yivri from Ur on the west bank of the lower Euphrates was personally exposed to suffering from Hammurabi's brutality, and he saw in the latest events a spread of evil which reached to a new area, as stressed by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So I sort of tried to, in my mind, think of, we've got two words beside each other that seem to say two different things. The first one, the munach on the word Avram, sort of says that Avram is detached until the point where he learns about Lot, and then Ha'ivri sort of says that Avram sees that Hammurabi is spreading here, and he wants to right the wrong against everybody who's been wronged here. So I'm not sure that we ever resolved the conflict between these two, but I wanted to point out that there is a conflict between what we said for number 4 and number 5. We've got a further note, Hayivri. The unique description of Avram in this sentence, the Yivri, implies that Avram kept himself on one side while all people of the surrounding were on the opposite side, Aver. In Russian, all Jews are called Yivris, Ebku, indicating that they are first and foremost the descendants of Avram.
It's Russian. That word in bracket. E-V-R-E.
Yeah, okay.
Ivri.
Ivri. Okay.
Ivri.
So, this is one of the defining characteristics of Avram, and it's interesting to learn the context that it's introduced. It's introduced in the context of him deciding to stand up for his principles. So you have to realize, when you have a position that you have an emotional or an inspired way of pushing you towards that, it pushes you to stand up, even and to hold your place, even if it's against the great opposition. So this is the idea of a principled stand.
Mm.
You've got something, and it's more important than everything to you. So the context is important here, right? It magnifies it.
This is the person referred to him as Avram Avinu.
The who and he. This is the Tlisha Ktana. This is the note that comes at the end of a word. If it's got more than one accent syllable, you put another one elsewhere, but this is on the correctly accented syllable. This is a servant note. This one connects to the next word. It doesn't have a pause after it, and continues and connects you to the next word. Number 6. All difficulties with Avram experienced after leaving his birthplace, Lech Lecha, strengthened his beliefs, and he still maintained his trust in heavenly guidance, as denoted by the shape and placement of the reading mark. So Avram is going to not get stuck and stay inactive. He's going to move forward, and he's going to do something about the fact that he sees an injustice. Shochen, with a kadma, so this is an emphasizing note and a forward-looking note. Dwelling. Avram was dwelling securely in a remote area, practicing his principles of life based on belief in God, as suggested by the directional shape of the reading mark. So he's looking up and forward. So he's living the ideal. Now he has to act on it. He has to take it and move forward. Be'eloneh, by oaks of, with the azla, the closing note to the kadma, the closing note to the one before. So looking backwards and slight pause afterwards. His quarters, administration, and the ground for his facilities, and training his men power with, surrounded by oaks of the vicinity, which rendered him complete privacy, as expressed by the corresponding closing shape of the directional reading mark. So he's got an enclosed space in which to discuss battle plans and to give orders. Mamre, with a munach, so separated from what's come from before and moving forward afterwards. Avram continued to experience homelessness, gerut, and the property which he occupied belonged to Mamre, who provided his tenant support and military protection. as specified by the shape of the related reading mark. So, just as Lot was claiming to be a foreigner and claiming not to be attached, Avraham truly has this sense of detachment. He has this munach that says, I'm different from you, and you're looking after me, but I'm here as someone who truly is different from you. So he gets the full munach to separate him from those who are around him. Ha-emori, of the emori, with a rivi'i, with a broad focused note, number 10. He was a notable of the Amori tribe, and he saw in Avram an ally of unusual potential, as illustrated by the broad meaning of the reading mark. So, the Amori is going to seem to be the one who's got the influence here, to seem to be the powerful one, but Avram's influence on him is in fact what's being focused on here. Achi, an ally of. So Achi is usually translated as a brother of, and here we're going to say that it's an ally of. This is a mapach. This is a note that takes a broader concept and focuses it to a more narrow point. Before Mamre established a union with Avram, he had other associates for common protection. One who would qualify as an ally of value would have to possess certain characteristics as conveyed by the shape of the reading mark. So, what are they going to need? Eshkol, number 12, with a pashta, a note that again emphasizes the word and moves forward from there. In the opinion of Mamre, Eshkol deserved to be chosen as a close confederate because of his proximal location and substantial manpower, as demonstrated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, the fact that it is an upward-looking note says that this is somebody who would be reliable, would be somebody who you could depend on, and would move your aims forward. Va'achi, an ally of, with a munach, so again separated out from the thing that comes before it. Later on, both joined an additional man, an ally of substantial strength, in order to fortify their position, as depicted by the shape of the reading mark. Aner, with a katon, a two-part note. After consultations, both partners agreed to extend their alliance by incorporating aner in it, as signified by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So the two people are agreeing to include a third partner, so because the two people agree, we get a two-part note. Vehem, and they, with the tipcha, backwards-looking note, pause after it, number 15. By the fact that Avram was connected with Mamre, his confederates were included, and they represented one coalition, is emphasized by the reverse inclination of the directional reading mark. So this is going to bring us back and close this group who have banded together. Ba'aleh, with a mecha, lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving forward. And again, Ba'aleh translated as men of rather than masters of or owners of. Number 16, thus men of power and meaning were integrated in one amalgamation which had a significant representation as portrayed by the shape of the reading mark. So this is what's going to move forward, and it's going to move forward based on Brit Avram. The strong thing that's going to give it stability is an Avram's league, Avram's covenant. Subsequently, all those associates became bound by a treaty as Avram's league, which was closely connected with one another. So even though he was sort of the minor partner at the beginning of the sentence, somebody who's sheltering himself underneath the Amori, all of a sudden he becomes the main influence that draws all of these people together in a common cause. So you see that he's seemingly not so much, but he manages to bring everybody together for their strengths for a common cause.
What does Og have to do with this? Like, why is Og also in this pasuk?
Og is the one who tells them of who sort of brings Avram from the point of peripheral knowledge to exact knowledge. The fact that Lot that Lot is involved, and then Avram sort of going from the fact that this is not only a personal tragedy for me, this is potentially something that's bad for the world. So I've got to stand up and I've got to turn my principles into action. So he gathers together all of these forces in order to turn his idea into something that's going to come to fruition into the world. So I think maybe I answered my earlier question of the conflict between number 4 and number 5. That Avram has to sort of flow through the decision and see that this is not only a personal event for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that where the world is going to be a much worse place if I don't do something about it.
But the do something is like.
So to do something is he now has a band of people who are willing to agree with him and say something has to be done. We don't know what yet. Okay, but he's now convinced and got a group of followers, and not only that, they're Balei Brit Avram. They've now accepted him as the leader, the man with the plan, the man with the idea, the man who at least says we're not going to stand for this anymore.
Because here, until now, we've been talking about physical battle and strategy. His idea going forward is he's gathering up all this knowledge and information, getting everyone on his side, but...
So don't forget, up until this point, what's Avram doing? He's sitting in a tent and he's telling anybody who comes to the crossroads, oh, there's a God, and he looks after the world.
Right.
So he's like the guru on the mountain. You come, you ask him a question, and then you leave and you live your life.
Right.
All of a sudden, he's not only doing that, he's saying there are some things in the world that we can't accept, and we have to stand up against them. And he's changed from a man of ideas to a man of action.
Oh, okay. So going forward, it
So
will...
we're seeing that this event,
Mhm.
in fact, changes the way that Avram acts in the world.
Okay, that's...
It's a foreshadowing because it's Brit Avraham. Little
Mhm.
do they know what will be asked of them.
And Agridas, who asked, Vayavoha Palit, we've got to pause after we say, the refugee comes, Vayagate, and he tells, and again we pause, the Avram, building up to Ha'ivri, he builds up to be the one who says, I've got to stand against this. This is just wrong, even if nobody else is going to. And then it's going to all move forward from there. It's not connected to anything at all. It's moving forward with the Tlisha Ktana. V'ushochein belonei Mareh Yaakov. He's there as just somebody who's under somebody else's protection, and then he's going to build up this coalition. Achi Ashkol ve'Achi Aner ve'Hem. All of these people, and they're all together, Balei Brit Avram, and all of a sudden they're going to turn into the band into Avram's Justice League. Yes.
Maybe the merry men.
Vayavo hapalit vayaged ve'Avram ha'ivri vehu shochein belonei Mamrei Hayamari Achi Eshkol v'Achi Aner Vehem Balei Brit Avram. Where are we? What time is it? We're going to do one more sentence, or we're going to call it a night?
I'm good for one. Shall
Yeah.
We'll do one more sentence.
Shalom
We
is
are
everything else.
on page 62, 14:14, Vayishma with a munach. So this is separated from what's come from before and moving forward to what's going to go afterwards. The reports of the refugee also reached Avram, and he learned about various episodes and individuals. He understood Vayishma their significance as a heavenly message that even mighty ones like Amalek and Amim can be defeated, and that even luxury like the wealth of Zoar, Sdom, and Amorah does not secure success. The story about Lot gave courage to Avram to intervene with force against usurpers, as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. So he's going to take everything that's come from before, and the way that he was before as just a minor influencer is going to change. So Vayishma, it means that he totally integrated everything that's happened. It's a full understanding. So it's when you say the word here with force to it, it implies a deep understanding and an influence into your core. And he heard.
Shema Yisrael.
So it's not just that the words came in. It's that he understood in fullness what was going on.
Well, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs points out that Judaism shows up as the religion of listening, as brothers like others that are the religion of seeing. So when we say Shema, it's like you really get it.
So I think we'll leave it at that. It's a long discussion to sort of fully develop that thought. Avram with the Katon, a two-part note. Avram, number 2, also realized that due to the fact that Lot had physically and ideologically parted in search of wealth and had moved towards Sodom, he was a participant in their goal, as shown by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So Avram understood that there was both good and bad in Lot, but he was still going to do something about it. Key, with a marcha lightly tied to what's come from before, but mostly moving forward, because Lot was attracted by material substantially of a physical nature only. He had provoked disaster on himself, as stressed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, as we had said in the previous sentence, Lot's desires convicted him deeper and deeper and deeper as part of the divine justice being meted out against him. Nishpa was captured with a tipcha, backwards focusing, closing the thought. As a result, he was captured as a prisoner together with his possessions, like his associates, as denoted by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So his attraction to wealth was his downfall. Achiv, his brother, nonetheless separated out with the stabilizing influence. However, when Lot unjustly became a victim of violence, Avram saw in him his brother. He didn't see in him the person who was greedy, the person who wanted to go to a place where only wealth was the attraction, where immorality was the temptation, where everything bad could happen. He didn't see him as the person who had any of those vices. He saw him as his brother, Achi. However, when Lot unjustly became a victim of violence, Avram saw in him his brother.
Is this as his brother, like you're brotherly, you're the same as me, or saw him as like his brother was, like Lot's father?
So you're asking the question is, are we talking relative, or are we talking compatriot?
Correct. Because now it says, consider Lot his brother, so it's compatriot. I guess.
No, I think it's expressing even more deepness. Same as me, from.
That's what I meant. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Who had a similar experience. Besides, in danger, Eitzara Avram ignored all previous disagreements and considered Lot his brother. All right, so maybe the first one is compatriot, and the second one is family, as suggested by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So he sees him in both lights. And again, those are both causes for stability. Those are something that brings the relationship closer and makes it more tight. Vayarek kadma, with a upwards looking note that is going to move forward towards the next part of the phrase. And he mobilized, number 6, on his own initiative. Avram organized a fighting unit without any delay, and he mobilized them according to his plan, instructing them with regard to the anticipated strategy as expressed by the directional shape